Good evening and welcome back to Will Henry's workshop, where tonight we're going to be fitting the muzzle brake that I made yesterday. Now, as you recall, I made this brake on the milling machine using the rotary fixture there, and the brake's made with 4 rows of 6 holes. They're spaced at 60 degrees, and each row is then offset 30 degrees from the one before it, so that the first row I did at 0, 60, 120, 180, and so on. The next one was done at 30, 90, 150, 210, and so on, and then back to 0 again. So anyway, the 4 rows, this is a brake that it doesn't have to be indexed, because of course it just fires off in all directions, and so it just gets fitted straight on. It's pretty simple. It was threaded with a 9/16 by 32 tap, and using the tap works well because it allows me to make a consistent size thread. Back when I was cutting them with a single point cutter on the lathe, even though I did them to a gauge, there was some variation in the threads, and so I kind of like the tap better. Plus it's faster, let's face it. So to do this, now it's time to move around a little. So to do this, let's give it a set around here. So the barrel is set up just as if I was crowning the barrel, and which in essence I am. I'm just adding some threads, and so it's dialed in at both ends. At the back end, I dialed in on the counter bore, and since the counter bore we know it's concentric with the bore because we dialed that in when we did the chamber, that works out well. And the front, I dialed in at the top of the lands just before I cut off the short piece, because I always leave the barrels about 1/4 inch long, so extra long. So now we're cut down to size, and there we are. So the drill now is to simply turn that to size. Like I say, it's 9/16 by 32, so that's nominally 0.5625. I'll turn it to 560, and I make the thread the same length, so 560, and there will be. So anyway, let's get at that. I'll move you over again. Since I'm being my own cameraman here, things might not work quite as slick as we'd hope. So to get my length, I could, if I wanted to do a real good job of it, I could set it up, and I could either move the compound around and move ahead in my 560 thousandths, or I could set up my dial gauge to sit against the carriage and do it that way. But since it's not a critical measurement, I'm just going to use my calipers like this and go up and roll it up to 560, and well, it'll be pretty close, and I can check it after I cut it. And if I have to, I can make some adjustments. But, now, you might have noticed, I'm not sure if you could see or not, so I had dialed in on the bore, so the outside is not quite concentric. It's not off by much. I doubt that it's off by more than 1/1000th of an inch, but it's off a little bit, and but we can deal with that when we turn the brake, and you'll see how that works. And I'm going to move you just a little different here and see if I can't get a little slightly better vantage for the camera here. Maybe do a little there. Okay. see where we're at. Okay, we're at 610. Close to 570, no, 568. So okay, now our minor diameter on this 5/16 thread is roughly 530. So I'll cut a relief right at the front of the thread to about 528. So let's see here. Again, the nice thing about 32 threads to the inch is that it's once again a multiple of 8, so that you don't have to worry about where you put it in gear. You can follow your thread just fine. Drop a gear here just because I'm not feeling particularly quick reflex-wise. We had a bit of excitement yesterday. We had a lightning strike that started a little forest fire just south of the house here, and we got to go deal with that. Always exciting. The other nice thing about 32 threads to the inch is it's pretty quick. chase that thread a little bit just to it's a couple more thou. We're almost there. So there we go. Now the next step is to bore the front of the brake so we have clearance around the bullet, and so oops, speed up a little bit. Just orient my boring bar just a little differently here. Okay, for a 30 caliber 308 diameter bullets, I'll usually try for about 328, and there again it's not a super precise thing, so Just using the caliper is fine. We're at about 300 now. So if I just come out another 10 and check again. And there we are. Well, we're at 329. That'll do. And because we bored this, we've centered up on the bore of the barrel to start with, and we bored this in the same setup so that this hole is absolutely concentric with the bore. And so although we've only got about 10/1000ths of an inch of clearance all around the bullet, that's going to be sufficient. Now the next step is just to face this off. I'll take one more cut here just to get the length I want. And then I can do kind of a recessed crown on the brake, and this is primarily for appearance, because I don't believe the crown on the brake does a heck of a lot. The only crown that influences the bullet is where the barrel was cut off on the inside. So okay, that's going to be just fine. Okay, now the next thing that I will do is to turn the brake down to match the diameter of the barrel. And to do that, now I had commented, as you recall, that by dialing in the bore, the outside was not quite concentric. And so we're going to check this right now to see where we're at. And as I said, this isn't going to be far off, because of course I had contoured this barrel on the center, so it's not going to be terrible. And indeed it's not. It only runs out, it's got a total indicator run out of just about 2/1000ths of an inch, so it's only off by 1/1000th. So, but nonetheless, we'll take that 1/1000th out of there. Well, that's close enough. The barrel is not 100% round, having been polished and, you know, draw filed and polished. It's probably out of round by about 1/2,000th, and so we can't do a lot about that. And with this being a new barrel, of course, really a lot of the stress is off. But on on a factory barrel, for instance, typically on a Remington 700 factory barrel, it wouldn't be unusual at all to have the outside of the barrel run out by 10 or 15 thousandths of an inch. And so in that case, again, you'd fit the brake just as I did. You'd line up on the bore, you'd fit the brake, and then when you're going to contour the brake to match the barrel, you'd dial in the barrel, then turn the brake, so that the bore of the brake and the threads and so on are not concentric to the outside, because neither is the barrel, and you want everything to blend in on the barrel. But that way you can get a really good fit. So here, that's going to be a little noisy, and so bear with me. Let's see here. Slow it down one step. As I said, it's a little noisy when you're cutting, making that interrupted cut through the holes. Now the final step is just to smooth that out a little bit. And there we are. Now the next step requires me to change to the 3-jaw chuck and so on. So I'm going to pause while I do that. There we are with the chuck magically changed. And so I've just got actually it's a case deburring tool that I hold in the chuck. And the last thing I do is I just bevel the edges of each hole to so there's no sharp edge there. And I just do that like that. deburring action. There, I figured you probably didn't want to watch me deburr all 24 holes, so you got paused there. So there, we see the practically finished brake. Now it's just a matter of I'll go inside and just make sure there are no burrs on the inside, and then apart from that, the brake is done. It'll get screwed onto the barrel, and then I'll bead blast the barrel and the brake together, and then the brake should look like it almost is part of the barrel. So there we go. So that's that. It's every bit as easy as it sounds, and that's a brake manufactured and installed. The installation is really the easy part, and like I say, the making of the brake is just pure tedium. Now I make some. Let's see if I've got one here. Yeah, here's another that. Now this one is an indexable brake. That is, it has to be set a certain way. These slots are oriented slightly to the top, and so in use the brake sits like this, and so it has a locking collar on it that locks it in place. So it's a little bit different. I've also done brakes that are integral with the barrel, and I do brakes with the ones that are integral with the barrel will be bored out, and then they'll have a restrictor that screws into the front. Now that's kind of important. As I mentioned, when I was making the brake, I make them with kind of an expansion chamber here, and then it's restricted at the front. And I think that they're more effective than if they're just bored straight through, and certainly more effective than if the hole's oversized. So anyway, I'll make some with a threaded insert for a restrictor, and then if a person wants to turn the brake off, I make an insert that closes all the holes. And that really has nothing to do with this, so I'm going to shut up about it. And so that's it for this evening, and so this is Will Henry, out.